Now you can see all of the groups are starting to heat up. A couple of them have had 2 games, of course, all the way through. Morocco leading their group respectively. Egypt, Nigeria, undefeated records of Algeria. Senegal and Ivory Coast leading the other 2 groups as well. It really has created a historic moment for Mozambique. Do you think you could summarise what this means to the people and what this win, or collectively, of course, means for their hopes in the competition?
It's 40 years in the making. This is why you play the game. This is why we call it the beautiful game, where, especially on the African continent, we've seen it with Comoros in previous editions. Now it's Mozambique's time to shine and really bask in the glory of what this means. They have some big players playing with the likes Jimmy Catano, playing for Sporting Lisbon. You have Ronaldo, former Atleti, playing for Sunderland, having an outstanding season for the Black Cats. But I want to give a shout out to 2 players that you probably don't think of Elias Pelembe, 42 years old, drew the penalty, 42 years old. I don't care what passport you go by, especially if you go by a Sierra Leonean one. It's still 42, man. But it's a big moment for him. And of course, their goalkeeper, Enan, 8 saves on the day. They don't get that result over Gabon, who was supposed to be spoiling the party for this group. And now Mozambique, they're the 2nd best 3rd place team going into match day 3, a chance to qualify for the knockout round for the first time ever.
Could you imagine what that means in terms of to the people, to the history? Going into this one, Group F was identified as one of those danger groups. And everybody spoke about it in terms of Ivory Coast, Cameroon and Gabon, who was going to be the 2, potentially the 3 that were going to go through. All of a sudden, Mozambique have put themselves into the conversation. So knowing their final game against Cameroon, how do you see them in terms of their energy and what they're going to do in the final game?
Look, I tweak my back, so I can't do the Harlem Shake and all that. But look, there's going to be the biggest party in their country, and every single citizen in the diaspora in Africa is going to celebrate this. But in my opinion, they've already won. For them to be history makers this way, it's going to be a Herculean task going into that final match day. But they exposed something that remains true when it comes to every single AFCON, that it doesn't matter if you have players like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who's one of the best goal scorers we've seen in Europa League history, or Danny Bouanga, who's missing in action since AFCON started, much like he was for the Club World Cup. If you don't come to play, they have enough quality to beat you. I
like that all the way through. So now we can talk about the competition overall, because I know, Lahoud, you're glued to it. Every single game, Matt Lahoud's texting me being like, yo, you watching this? You watching into this? He's in every group chat because this is the competition you wanted to make sure that you covered game by game. So who's impressed you the most so far?
I'd have to say Nigeria. And some Nigerians will look at me and like my dreadlocks are a bit crazy, but none of us expected this from Nigeria. Maybe all of us expected this from Victor Osimhen, and Victor Osimhen once again proving, by the way, it's his birthday today, but proving that he's one of the best strikers in world football. And there's just this growing aura about him. And it's not just his 32 goals in his Nigerian career, but I want to give big shout out to Ademola Lookman and a big shout out to this man, Eric Schell, because during World Cup qualifiers, so many people wanted him gone. So many Nigerians wanted him gone. They lost faith. They said he was ill-disciplined, ill-equipped. And for 75 minutes, we saw what I think is to come for the Super Eagles. Defensively, though, they still need to learn how to manage moments, but I think they'll start growing in the tournament and they can make a deep run.
They've got to really learn how to close out games, though, because even allowing the Abdi penalty at the end, you're not giving good confidence in terms of defensively going into the next one. But think about what they've been through, Lahoud, in terms of back in the terms of the scenes, the managerial, the coaching staff, the change in direction there. Even above that, in terms of the direction from the federation. This team has really been through a resurgence, and it seems that they're on a personal revenge tour for all competitions this year.
The biggest criticism I had of Nigeria was there was a lack of togetherness. It was a bunch of individuals showing up to, well, I would say get paid, but they weren't getting their bonuses because the federation was doing anything but that. But there was a lack of leadership, there was a lack of direction, a lack of belief, a lack of togetherness. And I stand by what I said before, that had it not been for Victor Osimhen being the spirit of Nigerian football, bringing the team together and saying, I'm going to will us forward, almost getting to the World Cup qualifying playoff, they would have been an absolute disgrace. But there was a moment, a small moment before we move on, that it was Wilfred Ndidi after his goal. He does the 1996 celebration
I was there with
in honor of Kanu, which is still till this day the highlight of Nigerian footballing history. So they need to continue to tap back in to what makes Nigeria great, which is that unified front, that unified presence on the African continent.
I'll tell you one country that definitely is great right now is the semi-finalists from the last World Cup, Morocco, who seem to be just, I would say, growing with confidence. Apart from, I saw a few whistles from their home fans. So it now creates the conversation as to whether or not, is there growing pressure because of the excellence they've shown over the last, let's say, decade or so in terms of an African football and world football overall, is Morocco into a different sort of category now in terms of the expectations?
It's between the ears for Morocco because you go back to the last World Cup and Brahim Diaz aside, this is a group that is learning how to play with a target on their back. No one, I don't care what any Moroccan says, not even our own in-house Moroccan, Nico Cantor, had them going to a World Cup semifinal last campaign in a major international tournament called the World Cup in Qatar. Now they're learning how to deal with the raised expectation on the continent. Every single team is going to give them their absolute best game. We've seen countries like Ghana, who is not here, struggle with that pressure. Nigeria, in past iterations, struggle with that pressure. Cote d'Ivoire struggle with that pressure. Now it's their time, and he still doesn't know his best 11. That number 9 position is a big issue for them. A lot of people talking about the midfield, but I look at that striker position. You went with Sofiane Rahimi in the first match. Stinker from him, missed the penalty. Ayoub El Kaabi, because he earned the right after that goal of the tournament, bicycle kick that he had in the first match, didn't deliver. Now is it Youssef El Nassiri's turn. There's this Russian roulette, this Rolodex of strikers. They need to pin down the center forward if they want to make a deep run. Do
you think there's too much tinkering in terms of the head coach Regragui? Is there too much wanting to try to find the perfect formula and sometimes you just got to ride the wave? I want to know from your opinion.
Look, he's a lot of things, and talking with Nico, because he's gotten to cover him in a World Cup in itself, he's a lot of things, but I doubt whether he's up to snuff from a tactical standpoint, because when you watch them play, especially in that opening match, it was a lot of, oh boy, someone bail me out with a moment of brilliance. And that can only take you so far. You need to get a system in place. And does that come with the growing presence, when it becomes official, of Achraf Hakimi as he gets fitter later on in the tournament? But they're playing with fire a bit. I think they're there to be gotten at in this competition.
Of course, Hakimi is expected to return against Zambia, which is obviously going to give a natural boost to everybody within that Moroccan realms. But talking about boosts and confidence, and one person that definitely had a spotlight on him was Mo Salah going into this. It seems to get a bit of confidence. The goals always help in terms of currency throughout any tournament. How do you feel like him and Egypt are faring up right now as the competition continues to progress as well?
Look, Mohamed Salah is doing Mohamed Salah things from the spot for Egypt. And outside of him taking his chances, it's been much ado about nothing. But that's still a big moment personally for him. Probably more for him than it is Egypt, because it's good to see him smiling again, playing with that sense of responsibility, that sense of freedom. But now I want to see a bit more from him, because at times he's been a bit pedestrian for the Pharaohs. So a good Mo Salah, a good Omar Marmoush is a very good Egypt that can go and win the whole competition. But the Mo Salah we've seen outside of Panenkas and brief moments isn't good enough for Egypt to win the whole thing.
So overall, you're not favouring Egypt in terms of what you're seeing. Even though two of the qualities that you just spoke about in the final third, you still don't see it for Egypt, even though the pressure is on them this year to deliver.
I actually had South Africa topping this group coming into this competition. So that tells you a lot about where I think Egypt stands right now. They could still turn the corner, and look, they're top of the group right now, and they have a hell of a goalkeeper playing out of his mind. But Mohamed Salah is the difference for them to win the competition and get back to being the kings of Africa.
Can we do the Kanu celebration as we go to break one more time? I like this. Make sure you stay locked in with us, because, of course, the AFCON is always entertaining, always engaging all the way through. But we've got more coming up on Morning Footy, because right now the fixtures, look at the fixtures in terms of going into today. Group A is always heating up, and you can see those kick off from 2 o'clock today. And Group B, they kick off to the afternoon as well. And one of the teams that my boy right here, Mike, just alluded to, South Africa, looking to do what they do against Zimbabwe. Egypt, a lot of pressure on their shoulders all the way through. Mali and Morocco entertain us in the afternoon, and all of that we can enjoy as we reflect of it here on Morning Footy.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount Plus.